Hey, what's going on, everybody? So, you're going to have to excuse me. I don't do this normally. This is completely new for me. I don't record myself or anything like that. I only game for the fun of it. So, keep that in mind. Now, I wanted to show you guys how I personally set up. Let me get out of this thing real quick. How I personally set up Ghost Recon Breakpoint to get the most. No, the best experience, in my opinion. Now, this is just for me. It could be for you guys too. You never know. But basically, this game, in my opinion, definitely requires some tweaking to, I guess, feel like a proper Ghost Recon game. Now, I'm not like a Ghost Recon fanboy or anything like that. I did not grow up with the series at all. I came into the series with Wildlands, as a matter of fact. I loved that game a lot. I played it a lot. And then obviously, when this game came out, I started playing it, and I was severely disappointed. like, like really, really, really disappointed. So, I decided, you know what? I'll wait. I gave it a while, like a year after launch. Um, I kind of tweaked the settings a little bit to make it a little more, I guess, enjoyable. It still wasn't super enjoyable to me. Finally, they came out with the Ghost experience and essentially allowed everybody to tweak the game to their liking, which, in my opinion, I think every developer should do that because it makes the game so much more enjoyable when it's accessible by anybody. It's not like tailored to one specific group of people who can, who want it to be difficult or who want it to be casual to enjoy the story. Which, if you're playing this game to enjoy the story, I would look elsewhere. That being said, you can definitely tweak this game now to sort of cater to a specific playstyle. For me, for example, the gameplay that I liked, or the game style, I guess, that I prefer to shoot for is mostly realistic, but there are some things that you kind of have to enable in this game to get the not the most out of it, but to have it be a little more accessible, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So we'll look at the Ghost experience parameters first. This is sort of like the big thing that you'll be looking at. Now, obviously, I am in Conquest mode, right? So the Operation Motherland DLC. Because of that, when you go into Ghost parameters, you can't change the exploration mode, and you also can't change world parameters. Now, that being said, I always leave exploration mode. I always leave it in guided anyways. And for world parameters, the only thing that I change in the main story mode is I get rid of the drones. Or I guess I reduce the drone presence. That's it. I like to leave the Azraels on. I like to leave the helicopters on. It does sort of give you this sense of being behind enemy lines, which is pretty cool. For the rest of it, though, I do a little bit tweaking. So obviously gear level off. I think this is the best way to play the game. I don't like the gear level. I don't really like it in most games. This game, and I think Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I would say are like my comfort games. I always sort of default to them if I don't know what to play. Odyssey does have a gear score or a gear level system. I think it works a little better in that game, though. With this game, I turn gear level off mainly because I hated switching weapons every 5 minutes. You raid a base, you find a better weapon, you switch your weapon out with that one because it's better, it has a better gear score. Then I go raid another base, and it's the same process. I find a new gun, I use that one instead, whatever. So I leave gear score off. I think it's just a much better experience. And that's just my opinion, but do with that what you will. Difficulty enemies, extreme. Definitely extreme. I think anything less is just, in my opinion, too easy. Oh, hey. Can you hear that? We're getting a tornado siren out there. Cool. Anyways, there's not a tornado. It's snowing right now. I think anything less than extreme is way too easy. There are some story missions, I'll be honest with you, where I turn it down to easy because some of these story missions sort of force you into very, very difficult combat scenarios. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but that's crazy that's going off right now. And those combat scenarios can just be not too challenging, but when you play the way that I play, I like to sort of I guess this is tailored towards somebody who likes to be in control of every situation, right? And sometimes these story missions force you into these scenarios where you can't like prepare for it. It just kind of throws you a curveball, which is fine, right? Like that's not normally a problem because I guess, realistically, you can't prepare for every scenario. But when you're facing like a behemoth head on, I don't know. For me personally, I'm like, you know what? I could have probably avoided this situation had I been more prepared, but it just kind of like spawned it in with me. Whatever. Anyways, so I keep it at extreme. I turn it down to easy only in very rare scenarios where I'm like, I don't like this mission. I just want to get through it. And then I put it back up to extreme. Now, for social and bivouacs, I go restricted. Sometimes I'll go to custom and I'll do shop all and garage all, but then social hub group only. Honestly, the social hub group only, I just don't like playing with other people. I don't have anybody to play with anyways, but I just prefer not to play with other people, especially when I'm in the social hub. I don't like seeing a bunch of randos just running around Erewhon, so I just turn that to group only. Interface. Now, here's the sort of big section here. Interface is pretty much everything off, except for a few things. Now, I don't touch like text chat, PvP, all that stuff. I don't touch that. But there are some things that I leave on. So, essentially, I'll go to interface. I always hit minimal, and then I'll tweak from there. I have hints off, obviously. Subtitles, I don't need them, so I don't use them. Size, I go small. If I have a larger monitor, but I don't like seeing the HUD elements all the time, which is why I like the fact that you can toggle the HUD off in this game with just a hotkey. But I go small anyways. No crosshair, no hit marker. Stamina, actually, that was meant to be on. Anyways, stamina on, or I guess dynamic. It'll only show up when you're getting low on stamina, which is fine. Because if you get to a point where you're sort of running from enemies, you can kind of see over here, the stamina gets pretty low, then obviously it limits your stamina, and I like to kind of see where I'm at. It doesn't give you, I think, the best audio cues to see where your stamina is at, so I think that just being able to see the stamina bar is probably the best option. Weapon items display, I go dynamic. I used to do never, because the only thing I really wanted to keep track of was my fire rate, if I'm in semi-auto or full auto. I prefer just to see my weapon info and stuff now, just because I like to see my ammo count and stuff like that. Honestly, I do prefer to turn this off, but lately I've been using it more because obviously you can kind of toggle that stuff off, and when you're in combat, I don't really notice it, but it is nice to be able to look down and see it. Tool info, I actually don't have the optical camo yet, so I just restarted the conquest with a new character. So for tool information, I go never because I hardly use my drone anyways, so I don't need to see the tool information, so I turn this off. When I get the optical camo, I may use it, probably not. Class technique, no, I don't like to see it. I don't use my class technique anyways. Mission reminder, yes. Now, here's the reason why I keep mission reminder on instead of turning it off. It is kind of in the way sometimes, but there are certain missions and scenarios which you're being timed and you may not know it. So, for example, I was doing this mission. I was up in this tower. I forget which one it was, but anyways, I was being timed and I didn't even know it because I had the mission reminder off, and I was going into the map menu just to see what my mission, like, being updated and stuff like that, so I could see the info. Well, I didn't know I was being timed, so I was in the middle of a firefight, and I was just kind of taking my time with it. Well, lo and behold, I found out I'm being timed. So by the time I opened my map back up to look at my mission info to see if it had been updated, it said mission failed. And I had no idea what was going on. So I leave mission reminder on because some missions have a timer, and you don't know that unless you have the mission reminder on. So I keep that on. Detection gauge, no. Warning message, no. 3D markers. Now, this one, for example, there are some scenarios where I'll go to a place specifically to gather something. So, for example, I'm going here next. This is John Dewey Residences. You can see that there's 200 camo points here. If I went here specifically for those camo points, I would likely turn the loot markers on. And the reason being, or the 3D markers for loot, and the reason being is because I hate walking. Like, I'll clear out a place, and then I'll be there for something specifically, and I won't be able to find it. I'll run around like a chicken with his head cut off for 10 minutes and not be able to find it because I had the interaction shader on, but sometimes it's not super obvious. So if I'm going somewhere specifically for an item, I'll turn this on after I've killed all the enemies, and then I'll turn it back off. I just don't like being able to see all these different icons while I'm walking around. It's kind of distracting. So, but for the most part, I'll leave interaction shader on at all times, just so I at least know, hey, that's it's not empty. I can pick that up, whatever. Loot notification is fine. I keep it at light, but I leave that on just so I can kind of see what I'm getting out of these chests. XP module, no, I leave that off. HUD markers, no. Allies, no. Teammates, no. Objectives, yes. Reason being is because, again, sometimes your objective isn't always the most obvious thing. So you may be able to see, like, hey, you need to, for example, rewire these boxes or something like that. I just did that mission at the end of Chapter 3, where you have to go around and, like, hack all these little boxes. I can see that in the mission reminder, but I have no idea which boxes specifically. But apparently my character does. So I just leave it on. The only bad thing about this is that the objective markers also show you locks and generators. I don't like being able to see that, but I kind of just cope with it because I need to be able to see these objective markers. Communication off, alerts off, locations off. This is more of a preference. You can turn that on if you want. I think they only show up if you're using the binoculars or the drone. I just like to leave them off. Okay, minimap. I don't normally have this on. Lately I've been using it, but I keep it at light just so I can see the direction, because I didn't like having to open my map every few minutes, if not more often, just to be able to see, where. So I had a certain destination in mind, for example, and I'm like, okay, I gotta go get a helicopter. I'll fly that way, but I have no idea which direction I'm supposed to be going. So I would open my map, see which way my character is facing, and I'd be like, all right, I gotta go north. So I'd be like, I have to go left of where my character is facing and then go that direction. I don't like being able to do that. The only bad thing about having the minimap on is that if and when you get caught, you know it instantly because your compass turns orange and then red. I don't like that, but I kind of just, cope with it. The reason why I don't like that is because I prefer to be surprised if I enter combat. So if I'm stealthing through something and the enemies figure out that I'm there, I personally like it when it kind of catches me off guard and I can hear them, shouting, and I'm like, oh crap, I got caught. It's about to hit the fan. So I leave this at light just so I can get a direction. If I know there's a destination, I'm like, all right, I gotta go north. I just go north on the compass. Okay. Texture clouds, never, 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 never. None. Okay, go up and sync shot modules. If you play with AI teammates, I like to use this just because I like to be able to see which enemies that they are currently locked onto. I used to not have this on either, but it kind of got to the point where sometimes they'd be like, all right, I'm ready to shoot, and then they would lose contact of that enemy, and then I wouldn't know it, and so I would fire, and then that enemy that I thought was going to be, taken out doesn't get taken out, and then, chaos ensues. So I leave this on. It's only on the screen when you're using sync shot anyways, so it's fine. I just obviously leave it at small and don't use a background because I don't need it. Notifications are fine. They just show up briefly and then go away. Current location, I don't have on. You can use this if you want. I mean, whatever. It just pops up, and when you enter a new area briefly and then goes away, I just prefer to leave it off. I don't really need to know where I am. Input reminder, this I leave on for the simple fact that sometimes you go up to chests and you don't know if there's a weapon inside of it. So because I play with gear score off, if you find a weapon in a chest, you don't just put it in your inventory, you actually swap your current weapon with that weapon, and that got really annoying. So I turned this on so that when I go up to a chest, I can see, oh, if I hold F, I'll dismantle it, which means that there's a weapon in there that I just don't need, because I like the 416, the one I use. So I leave this on just for that simple reason. Vehicles, that is actually off. I forgot to turn that off. I don't need to know the controls. I already know the controls for vehicles. If you're unfamiliar with them, obviously leave it on. Pretty simple. Toggle interface, no. It just tells that. It basically tells you, like, sometimes, hey, you can turn off the interface. I know that. Join, invite player, shortcut, blah, blah, blah. This is like, hey, do you want to join or invite players? No, if I want to, I'll do it myself. Gas filter and gauge analysis. These are really only for the Operation Amber Sky DLC. I don't play it, so I never really touch this. I guess I'll turn it off, but like I said, I just don't touch it because I don't play. I didn't like that DLC or that event, so this is kind of useless if you don't play Operation Amber Sky. And then PvP, obviously, I just don't touch because I don't play PvP. But keep in mind that if you do, these are obviously up to you. Okay, that was the big section. Now, difficulty tactical. There are a few things in here that where I stray away from Elite, and I sort of make my own custom version of Elite. And here's why. So, Elite, when I turn it on here, it turns on ammo loss on reload, no health regeneration, and then risk of injuries. Now, here's the reason I don't like those settings. One, we'll go to the most obvious, ammo loss on reload. I think that this is a very, very stupid feature. I don't think people who use it are stupid. For me personally, I don't like it, and here's why. If you are in a firefight, for example, and you fired your magazine, you have a 30-round mag, you fired off a few rounds, you don't know exactly how many maybe in that situation, but you know that magazine is not empty. If you take that magazine out of your rifle and you look at it, you can see that there are rounds still in it. You don't take that magazine and just chuck it. If it has rounds in it, you retain that magazine. So and especially like if I'm stealthing, for example, and I've taken out a bunch of enemies, and I'm like, okay, I only have like 5 rounds left in this magazine. If crap hits the fan, I need to have a full magazine, so I'll go ahead and swap in my magazine. I'm not going to take that magazine with the 5 remaining rounds and just throw it away and then put in a fresh mag. No, I'll retain it, right? I'll put a new one in, but I'll take those 5 rounds, that magazine with 5 rounds, and I'll put that back in my ammo pouch. Why would I just throw it away? I don't like this setting. I don't like this at all, so I keep this off at all times. It doesn't make any sense to me. Why are we just throwing away ammunition? You store it for later and use it again. Now, obviously, I know people are like, well, it basically means you have a limited amount of magazines. Yeah, I get that, but that's not the way that this game works. It's not Tarkov, so I just leave this off. Health regeneration, I do partial. Here's the reason why. Sometimes I will slightly misjudge the height of something, and I'll jump off a rock, for example, and not realize that it's going to hurt me. Well, I don't want to do that and then go into a scenario like a base, for example, or enter combat somehow and have limited health because I accidentally slipped off a rock and lost a little bit of health. It puts me at a disadvantage when that's kind of a silly reason to. Also, when I'm driving sometimes, if I accidentally hit something, you lose health because obviously it's like you got damaged in the crash or whatever. No, I put it on partial. It usually only regenerates anyways once I'm out of combat, but I do use some perks to give me some health back. I kind of take all the help I can get because I, play at sort of an extreme difficulty, but that's up to you. You can turn this off, obviously. I just prefer to leave it at partial because sometimes you lose health for stupid reasons, and I don't like that. Okay. Stamina consumption, extreme, sure. You're carrying a ton of weight and all that gear. Obviously, I know that special ops soldiers, operators have much more stamina than I do, for example. But underneath all that gear, you're probably not going to be sprinting for long periods of time. Okay, risk of injury. I do often. Here's the reason why. Sometimes if you get shot, you just get grazed. I get that it's not all the time, but also, I'm wearing body armor. Obviously, I'm wearing a plate carrier in this game. I'm wearing a helmet. I don't think every single time you get hit in the plate carrier with something, it's going to instantly injure your leg or your arm, right? I think that always is just kind of annoying to me, and it's a little unnecessary. Often is good because if I'm in a firefight and I get hit, I think it's like once out of every 3 times you'll retain an injury. So I think that that's a pretty good. I think that's a pretty good ratio there. So I leave this at often. You can put this at always if you want a little more hardcore of an experience, but I think always is just kind of unnecessary and kind of annoying. Syringes heal injuries. off. Bandage quantity, I do few because I typically don't really. If I enter combat, I'm very, very careful. I typically don't get hit. But you can put this at whatever. I mean, it is what it is. But I just leave it at few anyways. Main weapon slot's 1. I prefer just having one weapon, one main weapon at least, and then a pistol. And Darkest Night's on, obviously. I like the fact that it kind of forces you into having, or into using night vision. I really, really do appreciate that setting. And then for teammates, I turn off special abilities and sync shot weapons just so that it looks like they have one weapon, obviously. And then for special abilities, I think it's kind of a little, not overpowered, but since I don't use my special ability, I don't think my teammates should. I like to sort of role play this game. And so, you know, some Delta Force operators using, you know, a grenade that highlights every enemy in the immediate vicinity, and then using a combat drone, I think is just a little far-fetched. Obviously, given the circumstances, not so much, but you get the idea. Okay, so that's my ghost parameter settings. For my loadout, it's just obviously completely up to you. This is sort of my Delta Force operator look, I guess, outfit, and loadout. Again, I like to roleplay, so I don't use the suppressor on my handgun, and I have this set up like this. I'll talk about that stuff later. That's going to be in another video, but anyways, obviously use whatever class you want. I prefer to go with Assault because I like the fact that you get bonuses with assault rifles and shotguns. I use assault rifles, obviously. You get the mobility, which is the biggest one for me because I walk around aiming down the sights a lot, and I like the bonus that you get, the speed for being able to do that. And then resilience obviously is good because I have the injury set to often, so it's good that you get a bonus to your injury resistance. It means that it's not going to be as often, plus you get an extra health bar, which is great. And the gas grenade isn't too bad. I do use it a lot. For these, again, this is sort of like completely up to you. This is just how I play, but I figured I'd talk about it. I use close and personal for the movement speed when aiming down sights. Plus, I have my assault rifles at maximum mastery, so the speed that you get when aiming down the sights and moving is crazy. Like, look how fast this is. It's awesome. I know I know it's not like super fast, but it's a lot faster than default, believe me. Oops. So that's why I choose assault and stuff like that, and close and personal. Feel no pain. Cannot reach critical injury levels because I have often set. That's very good to have. Trust me, it'll help. And then injury resistance is cool because it means you get injured less often. I know that kind of defeats the purpose of setting it to often. I could set it to always, but I still prefer it at that. And then inspired. This is good because obviously I play with AI teammates. Every time they get a kill, I get a slight bit of my health back. That's very nice to have because sometimes I get a little careless, I get hit, and then when they take out an enemy, it inspires me, and I start to feel a little better. So that's what I do. So anyways, you can see this is obviously my heads-up display. Not a lot there. If I press the tab button or tab key, you can see what's going on, and then if I want it to go away, boom, it's gone. And now I can just play. I know that that's how it normally is, but I feel like this is a lot better than default, obviously. And you also get some of that key information that you need, whereas you wouldn't get that if you were just playing with no HUD at all. So, anyways, thanks for watching, guys. This is, again, my personal setup. Obviously, feel free to tweak it however you want, but I think this probably gives you the best experience for Ghost Recon Breakpoint. If you're looking to have a more immersive experience, maybe role play it a little bit like I do. But anyways, yeah, thanks guys for watching.